It's our 21st annual campaign, and joining us today, in addition to our local media, is Dr. Emma Smith, and she's going to serve as this year's campaign chair, and John Provost, who you will discover we are profiling or highlighting his story in our campaign details this year, and also many members of John's family are here to support him this morning. So at this point, I'm going to introduce and turn it over to Dr. Emma Smith.
Hi there, good morning. Thanks so much for coming. As Rhonda mentioned, we're launching our 21st annual Light Up a Life campaign. And every year at this time, we do rely on the community to kind of come together for the foundation. I've been working here as a family doctor for just under a year now, and it was very clear for me right from the beginning how much the hospital is really supported by the community members. One of the main things that made me want to move to Cobourg in the first place was that this is a truly community-focused hospital, and it's filled with staff who live in the area and really care about the patients that they treat every day. And we all know it's a beautiful facility. It has top-of-the-line equipment. And we also know that governments don't fund medical equipment. Donors are the ones who fund most of our medical equipment. I do see on a daily basis how much having new, high-quality equipment really improves our care, improves the efficiency of our care, and I was very happy to lend my support to this campaign because I really believe that we all have to do our part to ensure that the hospital remains so well-equipped. So funds from this year's campaign will help NHH purchase, hopefully, 20 new high-low beds. These beds have a lot of advanced features that will really improve patient care and also improve efficiency, which will allow our frontline staff to spend a lot more hands-on time actually caring for the patients. And because of that, they're quite expensive. They're $5,200 a piece, so we really are counting on donations to help raise funds for these. So this week we'll be sending out close to 5,000 letters appealing to the community for their continued support. And I'm very much hoping that when your letter arrives, you'll give serious consideration to donating to help us reach our goal, which this year is $130,000.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Later in the program, we also have a nurse, Debbie Clark, who can speak to some of the features that these beds will make available to our both our patients and our staff. So we're going to come back to that in just a moment. But we thought it's been our history the last couple of years to help make it real, to help our community understand how their donations help people in the community, to share the story of somebody who's had an experience here at NHH. And today I'm going to introduce you to John Provost. And John is going to take a moment just to share a little bit with us on his experience. We have many other guests joining us. I'll just pause for just a moment to make some introductions. First of all, we have some members of the Foundation Board of Directors in Louise Stevenson and Dave Cromlish. And we're now just joined by Dr. David Broderick, who is our Chief of Staff, Linda Davis, our President and CEO, and Christine Stewart, who has a double role. She's on the Foundation Board and also the Hospital Board. So glad to have you all here. So John, take a moment and tell us about your experience.
Thanks, Rhonda. On July the 12th, I was in a ball tournament in Grafton for my niece that passed away 2 years previously with a brain tumor. And we always put our family team in it. My son was in it, my wife was there, daughter-in-law, me and the grandkids were all there. And it's a fundraiser for her. And it was the last game. I was out in the center field, out there trying to catch some fly balls. I played ball my whole life. And all of a sudden I start seeing like a vision, or blurred vision and double vision, and something I'd never experienced before. So that was around the second inning, and I couldn't see the ball coming out to me, so I said, well, we'll see how it goes. Nothing got hit to me, so I went back, sat down on the bench, and then went back out again the next inning, and it was getting worse, so in the middle of the inning I finally pulled myself out of the game. Didn't know what it was, and just sat there. I batted after that, it seemed okay, and the game was over, and we went and sat down where we had lawn chairs, and we had some food and drink, and just sitting around talking, and all of a sudden I got a really bad headache. And Marianne was sitting beside me, and I said, can you give me some aspirins? I'm not feeling good, I got a really bad headache. So she reached into her purse and got them and went to pass them to me, and that's the last I remember for 2 or 3 days. Obviously, apparently I had a seizure, a brain seizure, All my family came to the rescue, and I'm telling you from my wife's log that she wrote. She's famous for writing stories about trips we've had and things, and she wrote the whole story. Sorry if I get emotional. It's hard to talk about, but anyways, they called the ambulance, they kept me safe, and I went in the ambulance to the hospital. I had another seizure on the way. They got me into the hospital, and I didn't know anything for 2 or 3 days. They had me heavily sedated. They did a barrage of tests on me. A few days later, it was Dr. Hakioye, my doctor, and the resident doctor came in and said, you know, they did an MRI and blood tests and everything. The first time they said they couldn't find anything, did more tests, came back and found something in my brain, down the right lower part of my brain. There was a gray area there. They said it was a tumor. But they didn't know if that was the main area or not, so they did more testing on my whole body, and they came back, and the good news was that was the only symptom I had. So they were going to send me to Kingston and do more tests. So I spent about 6 days in the hospital. Like I said, the first few days I don't know anything that had happened, but then I got moved into a room, and I went to the hospital, to the ball game that day, just as healthy as could be. I've always been a fairly healthy person. The next thing I know, I'm in the hospital in a bed, and very well taken care of. When I went to Kingston, even the Kingston doctor said, I can't believe the amount of tests that you had in Cobourg and everything that they were able to do. So he also said, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to get more tests, and you can stay in Cobourg and have all your tests done here. So it really meant a lot to our family, and very thankful for all the care I got. I've been in the hospital a few times here, nothing serious. All my grandchildren were born here, and every experience has been fantastic, and thank you.
Thank you, John. I told him tears were allowed. He got emotional. It's not uncommon when a patient retells their story to be overcome with emotion, and it's great to have so much of John's family support here because we know you all lived it. Debbie, can you take a moment and just share with us why these beds are different than what we have? First of all, the beds that we have right now are the same beds that we moved into this hospital with 11 years ago. And they're obviously used on a daily basis. And this is our first opportunity where we're going to be looking at replacing 20 of those. And there are new features that are now available that were not previously available, and Debbie's just going to take a minute to talk about some of those improved features.
Yeah, thank you, Rhonda. Yes, the reason, one of the biggest things that we're getting these new beds for is a feature where every patient in these beds can be weighed. So now at the moment, we do have a bit of a geriatric focus in this area, so some of our seniors, we literally have to get them up out of a bed. You know, if they can't stand independently, it's a little bit difficult. Sometimes they have to be helped in, you know, getting them weighed, or we have lifts that we can lift them right up out of the bed and weigh them. These beds will all have that feature built right in, so it's definitely an asset for the nurses, thank you very much. And it's as well, it's an asset for the patients because they're not going to have that moving back and forth for that particular activity. The other thing about these beds, the high-low beds, is that the beds will go lower to the floor. Again, with a majorly geriatric population, we do have problems with some dementia, some confusion, and we try to deal with that as well as we can. You don't want to restrain people anymore. We want to keep them active. We want to keep them mobile. So generally the side rails are kept down. In the event with the beds being down low, actually for one thing, the patients are able to, if they get their feet over the sides, if they can touch the floor, then it's easier for them if they do get up and they're going to walk as well. When we're putting them back to bed, you know, the lower beds, they're able to get into them, they're able to move around a little better. So those are two very significant features. We have had a couple of times we've had trial beds or whatever, and that's one thing the nurses have very much enjoyed was the high-low. And we've always envied the ICU beds because they have the built-in weight capacity or availability, and we haven't. So that's the two best features that we're getting in these beds, and we thank you very much for any contributions.
Thank you, Debbie. I see that we're also joined by Jennifer Gillard, our Director of Communications. I didn't see her previous. So the last thing that we want to share with the media is that this year we're really changing how we celebrate the success of the campaign. And many of you are familiar with our Light Up a Life evening ceremony where we come and we throw the switch on the courtyard and we have an evening event. We've been doing that since inception, so for the last 2 decades. So we thought to launch the next decade of campaigns, we'd change things up. And this year we're going with a radio breakfast. So it will be a live radio broadcast on December the 10th from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Please, Dr. Green to the OR.
And it will be held at the Best Western. So over the course of those 4 hours, we're planning a lot of really good listening material for our Northumberland County residents. We're going to share information on financial health at the holidays, physical health at the holidays. There's 4 of them: financial, physical, relationship health, because we all know at Christmas when families come together and sometimes it can be stressful. So what are some coping tips, So there's going to be some really great information, and also food health at the holidays, because we also know that a lot of times people can overindulge with so much access to really great food. So we're putting together a program that we think will be really interesting to the community. We have some special guests. We have some entertainment lined up. Our CEO will be on air. Our Chief of Staff will be on air. Dr. Broderick,
I think I'm nodding.
Yes, you'll hear again from our campaign chair, Dr. Smith, who will be able to report on the financial success of the campaign to date. So we're going to just try something different. The community can buy a ticket for $10 to attend the breakfast, and that will include their breakfast, but also the chance to see the radio program unfolding live and to be a part of it. We're going to have special draws for the listening audience and those in attendance. So it's something new that we're trying this year, and we hope that you'll come out and cover that as well, because it's going to be special for the community.